for them to be able to prove themselves and really show that they deserve to be competing along some of these other star-studded rosters. But draft is underway. A couple of the bans and picks already out on the board. A lot of the same things we're seeing from game one in the bans and picks. However, as Bacon mentioned during the first draft, we did not expect to see a Cruel make it through that first ban phase.
Very surprised, especially. I'm really surprised to see it in Europe, especially because even in 3v3, Kroll was like one of the dominant picks for Europe all throughout 3v3. And now in 5v5, I mean, obviously we knew it was going to be a priority, but I'm very surprised to see it get picked up here, especially with Equinox banning away the Lyra. You know, the captain focus is something that we haven't seen too much.
Yeah, Equinox composition already is looking super, super strong. Celeste, in my opinion, the single strongest mid laner. Kroll, in my opinion, the single strongest jungler. Wolves are going to have to figure out how they want to answer this. That being said, they do have the Reza on the table. So if Reza is able to kind of maneuver himself past those front lines, dive onto Celeste in the back, perhaps he's just going to be able to blow her up.
Yeah, I'd like to see Wolves go for something that either can build into a Frostburn or go into the Shiver Steel. So you need to have the slows in your composition so that you can prevent that Kroll from just running wild on your team. If you can slow him down, it makes life very difficult for a Kroll as you get into the mid to late games. But obviously with 5v5, there's a lot of brushes available for Kroll to get his heroic perk. That's one of the things that makes him so strong on the Sovereign's Rise, is that there's just a lot of opportunities for him to get that movement speed increase.
Yeah, he's constantly able to use his Shadows Empower Me, get on to whatever the squishy enemies are on the enemy team. It's going to be Kestrel in this case. If Kroll's on point with his block mechanics, he's going to be able to go right through some of her active camos, and she's going to be in big trouble. Wolves picking up the Fortress as well. We saw Fortress put in a lot of work in the last game. We saw a little bit of a turnaround there from the side of Team K, so they had one really good team fight that I think Fortress was a big part of. I don't know if he's necessarily going to have the same impact because there's not as much to body block in this matchup.
There's not as much to body block, and there's a lot of AoE. So those Wolves, the Fortress Wolves can be taken out very, very quickly. But I mean, it is Wolves Esports, so it makes sense they want the Fortress. You know, gotta almost like their mascot, maybe perhaps. We'll see. But the Kestrel, I'm going to be very curious to see what build path the Kestrel goes. I would like to see a weapon Kestrel in this situation, just because that can really deal with a Catherine and a Kroll very well. You know, being able to pop that active camo at any time really is just incredibly useful. But the other thing I want to talk about is we have the Fortress and the Tony on the same team this time. We saw the Captain Tony last game, but with Fortress there, I feel like this is very likely to be more of the carry-oriented Tony.
Exactly, and to that extent, it could also be a toss-up. We might even be able to see the carry jungle Fortress, well, like we saw in the first game. But yeah, definitely a good take on things. However, Equinox Esports has one of the deadliest combos in the game in Catherine and Baptiste. If Wolves are not blocking the silence coming out of Catherine, they are almost definitely going to be feared by Baptiste, and that's something that they're really going to have to watch out for.
Yeah, not everything translated perfectly from 3v3 to 5v5, but that is one of the few things that absolutely made the transition. They are going to get the Varia as the final pick for Wolves, so they actually have a really pretty good team fighting composition, I feel, on that side, as long as they can get the initiation, which Tony can certainly help with. Fortress can help with as well with the movement speed, but then an Arden coming out on the side of Equinox. Arden and Catherine on the same team.
Arden and Catherine and Kroll. So the question is, which one of them is going to end up jungling? I would assume it's going to be the Kroll.
Kroll's jungling.
But that's going to put one of them as a carry in one of the lanes, which we never really saw in 3 versus 3. It's definitely viable.
I think everyone out there knows what my preference on that is going to be.
Yeah. I guess we're just going to have to see what happens. But now that we have our selections, Tasty, who is the player to watch on Equinox?
I think Equinox, one of the things we talked about when we were looking at these was which names stand out to us. And for me, it was Kieran on the side of Equinox. He was one of these players that, you know, if you follow Scoundrel and Dowsy, they've talked about complaining about having to go against Kieran in solo queue. He was a solo queue VG Gold player. So he got up to the top level all in solo queue. And that is just something that's really impressive. But now we get to see, will it translate to the team level?
Yeah, with his team being a little new, it's going to be really interesting to see if some of his veteran experience can kind of help guide them and show them the way.
This is going to be a very interesting play, especially with so many new players in here, and the fact that they are a brand new team, that communication is really going to have to come out. They're going to have to find a way to communicate succinctly and on time to get their plan across. How many seconds do you think they have to get a plan across to their teammates? If you make a decision and you need to get from A to B, that's your goal. How are you going to communicate that with your teammates quickly?
It needs to be almost instantaneous. When you decide who your shot caller is, that's every team should have done that by now. And then once your shot caller makes a decision, everyone needs to be on board. It's something that's been said across all esports, is that it is much better to have everyone following a bad decision than to have multiple people following different good decisions.
It's important to play as a team, and I think we're about to see some team play right now. Let's get over to that game.
Call all of the action.
Hey, Tasty. Yeah, we're back into the fold as well. I mean, this is going to be an exciting game as well. Wolves Esports, Equinox, these are teams we haven't gotten to see until now.
Yeah, and again, a lot of maybe unknown names. You look at this roster, you see Wolves invading, taking that Treant, Chrysior, the Paprika, lots of names that you may not have seen. Simi, another one that, you know, maybe a little bit unknown. You look over on the side of Equinox, you've got Boar, you have Safantu, Alex SS, and Viking to go along with Kieran. It's, again, names that you may not recognize if you haven't been, you know, like, playing solo queue over on Europe. Because even in VGL, like, these aren't names that we've been seeing through the Challenger. So very impressive to see that this squad has come together and are going to be looking to really make a name for themselves. This is what 5v5 is offering. It's new opportunities for everyone across Vainglory.
Absolutely. But a lot of names that are still pretty memorable here. Kigaza, again, he was on Fnatic previously. He's got, you know, a fair amount of professional play. He's, you know, we're going to be really looking at him. And he's on Tony. Again, another Tony pickup. Something that we've seen both series tonight.
And looking at what FlashX and I were talking about from Equinox, it does look like it will be the Catherine playing in the carry position with the Arden as a captain, much to my chagrin,
that
unfortunately.
Weapon Catherine, you know what? I love Weapon Catherine because it's a carry position that you typically try to avoid Catherine. You try to avoid engaging her. She's got that Storm Guard that does reflection, but when you put her in a carry position, you can't avoid her. As you see just right now, Boar taking a lot of damage though, but looking to be the aggressor in this lane.
Yeah, once you get towards level 3, level 4, that's when Catherine can start winning these trades with the shield, but that is so much damage the Paprika just dealt out, and now here comes some more members of Wolves. Boar is in a lot of trouble and will be going down. First blood at 2 minutes and 40 seconds.
And he had to use his flask early on, right before that gank occurred, and the gank, of course, fantastic, coming in right at the end.
Yeah, and able to get that first blood is really big for the side of Wolves. Getting that little bit of extra gold bonus and getting into that matchup as well, making sure that you have that advantage. Because Catherine's one of those heroes that, you know, it's very almost unpredictable how much damage she actually comes out. It's very much an instance where you don't think Catherine's going to be able to do a lot of damage. Then all of a sudden she gets a Storm Crown, she gets an Aftershock, and you're just melting.
Right, but she has to get some damage. She has to get ahead and not lose her lane matchup. If she gets too far behind Tasty, we've often seen that, you know, any of those like Ardens and Catherines and these unique roles, they struggle a little bit. But
another invasion happening there. Chrysior is going to get the stun on Safantu, try and turn this around. Safantu's going to go low. Chrysior just trying to bait them in with this fortress, low health. But it looks like everyone will be backing away, and no one's going to go down there. So nice job by both teams recognizing that they were in a little bit of trouble, maybe a little bit deeper than they would have liked.
Absolutely, popping some flask though to survive. We'll see early game, you know, when you save that flask, you can be a little bit aggressive and not go down. So a little bit of a risk reward there as you move in. Again, we're just seeing that fortress in the mid lane with the Varia. So same kind of similar matchup as what we saw. That Varia mid game, very, very popular so far in 5v5. And one I think we'll see across regions in both Europe and North America. These pros love to play it.
Yeah, the Varia, the Celeste, the Samuel, those are kind of the three premier mid laners. You generally want to get one of those three. If you can't, the Scarf is another option that is available, but typically you're going to see one of those first 3 heroes in the mid lane for either side.
Yeah, we'll see how Wolves handles it. You really don't want to get so far behind like we saw in the last series. You don't, because the Varia she's just going to do so much more damage late game. A great job, actually. That was Clash, able to close that game out quickly, basically negating the power that Varia was going to be able to bring to it. Here, I love seeing Celeste in the mid lane as well. Celeste really kind of like that safe laner. Does a lot of AoE damage, a lot of crowd control. So she could be very, very powerful in the late game and a good matchup against the Varia.
Oh, that's going to be a stun onto Simi. Simi has to use that dash to get out of dodge. Otherwise, it may have been a kill going the way of Equinox, but will be able to be safe for now. And you know, you talked about how ending the game early against the Varia was so important. We got to see a glimpse of just how strong the Varia can be, but unfortunately, it was those ultimates just not being up at crucial moments. So it really is one of those big late game heroes. You need to wait for that late game. I really like what Equinox did there. They pushed in that mid wave. They knew that Simi had gone back, and then they rotated down, looked for an opportunity. They didn't find anything there, but still, the fact that they're rotating so quickly, now they might get a kill on DeBoer. Is going to get that flask healing underneath the turret, so we should be safe. But the willingness to rotate just on a whim like that is what's really good to see, as there is a turret that gets destroyed by Krull up in the top lane. Yeah, the rotation's been lower lane heavy on this side, so their upper lane's been exposed. Baptiste and Krull able to push pretty well. We see Ghost Wing has landed, so another objective that we'll see teams start to prioritize here very early. Yeah, we saw in our first game, Clash put a lot of emphasis on that Ghost Wing. Right now on the bottom lane, Fabrica going underneath the turret, going to use the Netherform detonation in order to save his life. As now it's going to be a little bit of dodging going on there for the side of Equinox, make sure they didn't fall to that Varia ultimate. But Boar is able to get back to base safely. Yeah, he didn't have his flask. He had used it previously, so he would have been in big trouble if any more attacks had landed. He is able to get out there. So one objective going in favor of Equinox. Nice start here, and we're seeing that 1,000 gold lead. Not a substantial lead just yet. Catherine hasn't built any major offensive items, so she is going with that Storm Guard first, and we see that often. She might actually go with either a Tension Bow or an Aftershock. Kind of can go different ways, but you typically will see it's almost like a utility damage coming out. Well, because they have the weapon, Baptiste, and the Krull, I would heavily expect it to be the Aftershock as the choice for the Catherine here, just to keep your damage types as varied as possible. I do also want to look at Simi and his build path, because we talked about last game, the different build paths available to the Varia. Simi goes right for the Dragon's Eye, but he's actually, oh, what an ultimate from Celeste, from downtown all the way mid to bottom, finding a kill. And now it's going to be Aerosol in trouble as well. Great silence, and he's stuck in the gauntlet. That's 2 quick kills picked up by Equinox, and the fighting is now continuing in the mid lane as well. Simi going very low, having to use the healing flask, but nothing's going to come from the mid lane. But what a great turn of events for Equinox in the bottom. Absolutely. That Shatterglass first put all of that damage, and that was a level 1 Solar Storm. So not even the most potent Solar Storm we're going to see in the game, and he deleted him. He was a little below half health. All of that got wiped away. Another kill going in here as they look to contest this Ghost Wing. Yeah, Equinox able to find some advantages now, taking advantage of these sort of scaling build paths that have really been prioritized by Wolves. So this is a great opportunity for the next 3 to 4 minutes or so where Wolves are going to have a clear advantage. Simi's so close to going down, is going to be able to survive, but that turret is taking a lot of damage as well. So again, Equinox just finding these opportunities, taking advantage of these first tier 3 item power spikes. Little taunt there, actually pulls in the Krull. Little heads up there, thanks to the vision. In a world of trouble. He's going to drop this Celeste, doing so much damage. A big stun. We'll find another kill. The Varia ultimate's not going to get a lot of work done. The turret's gone down, but a big active camo stun will help. Solar Storm rips through the team, does about 1/4 of their health. Simi trying to make something happen now. He's got that Dragon's Eye, so if he gets that stacked up, he will have a lot of damage, but again, needs to get that stacked up before the damage is really there. Yeah, and a bit of a risk because you've got that Shatterglass and some other big items on the side of Equinox. Kestrel building a Shatterglass first. We saw those Glimmer shots coming out, doing a whole lot of damage as well. So both teams kind of balancing the burst damage with that sustained damage. You see the Breaking Point and the Serpent's, the Poison Shiv there on Luja. So that, again, a little bit of combination of sustain with burst across the team. Yeah, the range that the Celeste can output damage from is just massive, and they're doing a great job right now of taking advantage of that. 3 members up here in top. Equinox going to force down another turret, and it took a couple more minutes than our first game, but it is starting to feel very similar to that first game where Clash just started focusing objectives and taking turret after turret after turret. We'll see if they continue to keep this pressure up. They're not quite rotating as a full 5-man, but this 3-man squad is enough. There's a big stun from Frel's Heart, and that's going to be another kill lined up and secured by Equinox.
Equinox turning it on. We saw as that top lane was going down, Equinox pushing on top. We did see a push from Wolves Esports, but the Catherine now is at a point where she's just too tanky, and you just can't push in on a lane on her very easily without taking a little bit of damage.
Equinox just pressuring these turrets so hard. That's going to be an answer attempt from the side of Wolves. Nice nether from detonation to get in, but Equinox just doesn't care. They don't care about this fight. All they want is the turret. They get their objective, and now will they be able to get out, though? They're going to lose one, very likely going to lose two, but they're trying to turn this around to Kigaza. Kigaza will get that barrier up and will survive, but 2 lives traded for an armory turret. I think Equinox is going to be A-okay with that.
It's not a bad trade. There's no objectives for them to take. Wolves aren't in a spot to kind of push anything. So because of that, absolutely you want to keep taking the objectives in your favor, even if you give up a kill.
And the great thing about what Equinox has been doing, and a difference from what we saw in game 1, they're not pushing as 5 onto these turrets, but the reason why they're only using 3 is because they're keeping 2 other people in those 2 other lanes and making sure that Wolves are not able to get anything in return. With Clash versus Queso, we saw Clash push down 2 turrets, but then they would lose turrets in other lanes. Whereas Equinox, they're only getting 1 turret at a time, but they are not losing anything for their efforts. So a really good job by Equinox of wave control and keeping those minions on the Wolves side of the map. Here comes a Varia ultimate to try and contest this Ghost Wing, but Equinox, they're just going to back off, wait for the Varia ultimate to go down, and now a big Solar Storm just rips through the Paprika.
On that stun.
They're going to continue chasing on through. Chrisior is going to be isolated a little bit. Active Camo is down. Will it get a big stun? It gets only Viking. He's going to immediately get healed up by a Fountain. They've already found 1 kill onto Tony. See Safantu chasing down a couple more. There's 3 kills now coming through for Equinox and losing nothing.
And they're going to be happy with that to be able to pick up this objective, Ghost Wing, and possibly another turret. Most of their lanes aren't pushed up, though. So with the Ghost Wing, that's where you're probably going to see them push one of the lanes. You see Catherine starting that bot lane. That's likely going to be their first target. Might have to be careful. I don't think they're going to be able to contest it. This is a little close. No, they got it.
Yeah, no, it's very difficult for the Fortress to kind of jump over the wall there to try and make that steal. It's like there's one specific position on the Ghostwing pit where I think you can actually make that jump, but it's actually really difficult to get into that spot because you're also vulnerable there as well. But again, Equinox, they get the Ghost Wing, they immediately go to all 3 lanes, make sure they start pushing them up, and now Kigaza tries to throw out that ultimate, doesn't really get much done there. Great gauntlet, will land a couple of stuns, and it's already Kigaza is down. They're continuing to chase this fight. So much work is being done by Viking. He is just melting through the members of Wolves. They've got 3 kills, they're chasing a 4th. It's Chrisior doing everything he can to try and get away from this Celeste, but now you're going the wrong way, buddy. There's no sanctuary there. He's just trying to buy time. That's really all he's looking to do, but it's just not going to be able to do enough. They get another kill, and now the rest of the team, they've been pushing in these waves. They've been looking for these objectives. 1 armory starting to go down, mid-turret starting to go down a bit as well, but they need to find something else. That took a lot of time, so great job by Wolves to kind of minimize damage, but they do lose another turret.
Yeah, they're going to lose a kill here, maybe 2. Luga actually on the top, still thinking about going through. Solar Storm's going to miss. That's the first Solar Storm we've seen miss, actually, this game.
Yeah, well, right. Actually, we're going to have a fight up there. Sfantu in some trouble. So is Luga. Luga going to be going extremely low, but he turns around and gets a kill in the process, making that a 1-for-1. If he eventually goes down, he's still alive, dodging everything.
He does
Luga with the fancy footwork, and now Equinox is here. Luga, you do not want to go back into this fight. Viking is now here, doesn't have the ultimate, but he has plenty of heliogenesis. Kigaza going to go in, knock Viking into the middle of the team. It's a great ultimate from Tony. They do finally get the kill on the Viking, but now it's getting turned back around. Safantu and Boar making work happen here. They get a double kill for this Krull, but again, Respawn starting to come through. I don't think they can really commit to too much more, but they really want to get this armory down. You can see it's getting very low. 1 Spectral Smite should be able to take it down. Alex SS is here as well. They get the first armory. Are they going to look for even more? This is starting to get greedy. They need to back away, and that looks like exactly what they're going to do.
Well, that almost 15,000 gold lead is anything short of impressive, and you know, a little greedy maybe, but I like the fact that they need to prioritize that.
It didn't cost them, so
it cost them
the
nothing.
greed worked there. It was great shot calling from Equinox, and that's what we've seen all game from them.
Right, Wolves in such a bad spot. Even when they started to get a push and look to get another kill, they got caught out by just the whole team of Equinox coming and rotating up and finding them by surprise. Celeste, as soon as Celeste is in the fight, if you can't prioritize her, you are going to be taking so much damage in the fight. You really have, at this point, I think Wolves have to completely disengage if they can't take down Viking within the first minute of that fight.
Yeah, you need to rely on this Tony ultimate. It's kind of a tough spot for them to be in because you're like, if you're relying on just one ultimate connecting, if that gets blocked, if that gets reflex blocked, if he gets a gauntlet down from Alex SS in time, all of a sudden that ultimate doesn't work. Viking is completely safe. You have no way to get onto that backline other than diving in deep with a Fortress and a Reza, but then they're just going to get deleted in response. So this is a very, very tough spot for Wolves Esports to be in. Equinox, they're starting to capture up this Black Claw. If they get this without having a single turret left in that mid lane, this game is likely going to be over unless Wolves can pull out a miracle. Ghostwing is getting, or Black Claw is getting very low. Varia ultimate's going to come down, gets a lot of damage. There's the Solar Storm. Great Tony ultimate will split the team, but the Black Claw was captured. Now the fight is on. Vikings already got himself 1 kill. He's got himself 2. Doesn't get the 3rd. It goes over to his teammates, but they're going to be getting 4.
Too much.
This is all over, Dragonborn, as they chase down this final kill. They have the vision there. They know exactly where this Kestrel is. There's no escape. An ace coming through with Black Claw pushing, and that will be Equinox taking a very decisive victory.
Great job. They really didn't lose at any point of the game, the early game and to the late game. Or I wouldn't even call that the late game, mid-game push here.
Yeah,
the first
we're
Black
16
Claw.
minutes in. This isn't exactly a late game situation. Equinox just really looking pretty dominant here in this matchup. So again, the great shot calling from them, as it's going to be getting the Black Claw finishing off the Vein Crystal, but a huge lead that Equinox was able to build up early in this game. It took a couple minutes, took about 5 minutes before things really started to, take off. But once Viking got that Shatter Glass, it just absolute dominance from this Celeste pick.
Absolute annihilation. I was going to say dominance, and then